Good evening, night wanderers. Welcome back to Somnolent Conspiracies, where unsolved truths haunt the silence between ticking seconds. Wherever you are, folded beneath blankets, leaning into your headphones, pacing a quiet room with only your thoughts for company. Dim the glow. Turn off the screen, close the blinds, extinguish the lamp. Whatever remains of light, let it surrender. Now find a clock. Watch it. Let your eyes linger not on the hour, nor the minute, but on the second hand. Because tonight's file begins when it touches 07. Not before, not after. Exactly when that hand kisses the mark, something is supposed to remain still. And yet, it didn't. This is the story of a locked room that forgot to stay locked. Of a skeleton that vanished while no one moved. Of a crime scene that rewrote its own rules, one flicker at a time. So take a breath, mark the time, and remember, when the hand drifts past 07, keep your eyes open. Shadows move differently when they know you're watching. The skeleton that vanished at 07. Part 1, The Storm Corridor. The wind that assaults the cliffside hospital doesn't blow. It flays. It tears up from the North Sea like something summoned, slapping the concrete facade with a noise halfway between thunder and a scream. Salt mist coats every window, and the storm's breath pushes against them in short, sharp bursts, like something trying to get in. Inside, the lights hum too loud. A long hallway stretches in clinical fluorescence, its tiles sickly beige beneath flickering tubes. Every door stands ajar except one. Autopsy Room 3. Dr. Isla Morgan's shoes squeak as she walks. Each footfall betrays more than her presence. They mark a rhythm the storm seems to mimic. She's not rushing, not yet. But she's alert, the way one becomes after too many shifts without rest. Her hair is pinned back. Her gloves are on. And her eyes, although dry, have that quiet gleam of someone who's seen something strange but hasn't decided whether to believe it. She pauses by the door. Autopsy 3. The keypad glows green. Secured. Just like she left it. The air smells of antiseptic. Overdone. Like someone cleaned too much. And underneath that, something faint. Metallic. Wet. Wrong. The roof above her ticks with rain. A sharp, relentless staccato. Somewhere in the building, an old pipe moans, echoing down like a breath exhaled too slow. Morgan takes a breath. She hasn't even opened the door yet, and her shoulders already hurt. She presses her palm to the biometric lock. A click. The door unseals. Inside, the lights should come on automatically. They don't. She hesitates. Then, click. The fluorescents buzz and flare awake overhead. One after another, she steps into the room. Autopsy 3 is windowless. Clinical. One stainless steel examination table in the center. Shelves of instruments glint beneath sealed glass. Pedestal near the wall. And atop that pedestal, a sealed containment case. Currently opaque, awaiting activation. Or it should be. Morgan frowns. The case isn't glowing. The pedestal's indicator light is off. That's not standard. She approaches slowly, her footsteps absorbed by the rubberized floor. She passes under the vent. Above her, a ceiling tile quivers. Not from the storm, from something else. Just once, like it twitched. She stops, looks up. Nothing. The room hums again, light airflow, power lines in the walls. But something about the hum feels dissonant, like a tone gone sour. She walks toward the case. The pedestal is empty. Morgan blinks once, twice. Where the skeleton should be, where it was hours ago during her prep and log entry, there is only the smooth imprint of absence. The case's seal is still locked, but the specimen is gone. Not moved, not transferred, not signed out. Gone. She turns, suddenly cold all over. And behind her, a loud click echoes from the hallway clock. 006. The second hand twitches. 007. The lights above her buzz. Then strobe. 1, 2, 3 times. Then plunge the room into near darkness. Glass shatters. Something moves. Something doesn't. But that's the next moment. Right now, she just stands in a room that was sealed, that held the remains of a man who died over a century ago. and is now inexplicably, impossibly missing. Her heartbeat finally catches up with her brain. She swallows, and the hallway clock ticks loudly behind her. Into the next scene. Part 2. Clock strikes 0:07. Tick. 0:06. The second hand of the hallway clock hovers for just a fraction too long. The kind of lag you don't notice unless you're waiting. Unless the air is already too still, the room already too cold, the fluorescent light already too loud. Then, 0:07. And everything changes. The overhead lights inside Autopsy 3 don't flicker. They strobe. Rapid-fire pulses of blinding white and murky shadow. Like someone's flipping a switch at a speed just below seizure threshold. Like reality is buffering. Dr. Isla Morgan blinks once. Her pupils can't adjust fast enough. On the third flash, she sees her own shadow stretching long across the tile. Longer than it should. She's not moving, but the shadow is. Then the lights cut entirely. Pitch black. A half-second of pure silence. So full it presses against her eardrums. Then, crash. Glass explodes across the room with a shattering scream. A cold shard slices past her cheek. She ducks by instinct, hands raised, head low. A sterile tray clatters to the floor near the table. She freezes. When the lights stutter back to life, dim this time on emergency backup, the pedestal is visible again. And it's unmistakably empty. The reinforced case that had housed the 1911 specimen is not just shattered. It's ruptured inward, as if the force came from the inside. The skeleton isn't there. Not one bone. Not a single remnant. The containment casing's biometric seal remains intact. Its data log will later confirm. It was never opened. The glass is everywhere. Morgan's hands tremble slightly as she turns in place, surveying the room for any sign of forced entry. There is none. She herself was the only authorized presence. And yet, on the tile where the pedestal stood, a black smear mars the floor. No, not a smear. A shape. She crouches. It's a sigil. Rough, fresh, drawn in what looks like charcoal or soot or something worse. Part of it is smudged by the shattered casing, but the rest glows. A faint ember-red pulse crawls along the outer edges. Not from any light in the room, not from fire. Pulses like a wound that hasn't healed. Morgan stares. The symbol is unfamiliar. No institutional marking. No pathology shorthand. But her breath fogs slightly, even though the room shouldn't be cold enough. The lights above hum weakly. Her heartbeat pounds in her ears. Her voice, when it finally arrives, is hoarse. Unbelieving. Where did you go? The words aren't meant for anyone else. But the air listens. The sigil flickers. And from down the hall, the echo of footsteps, heavy, fast, coming toward her. She straightens, backing away from the pedestal. She reaches for her radio. Static. Then a sharp pop. Then the channel clears. Her hand stays frozen in mid-air. There is no sign of entry. No reason the case could open. No biological process that explains the absence of bone. But the sigil remains. So does the glass. So does the second on the clock, 0:07. Morgan's chest rises and falls as adrenaline catches up to her muscles. She blinks. Once. Slowly. Then moves. She locks the door behind her. Because whatever happened just now, she needs backup. She needs verification. She needs witnesses. And she needs them now. Part 3. Morgan's shock. The lock clicks into place behind her with a sound sharper than it needs to be. Dr. Isla Morgan stands alone in the corridor outside Autopsy 3, staring down the hallway as if something might still be following. But nothing does. Just the rain hammering the roof above, the storm whispering down every ventilation shaft like it's searching for a crack to slip through. She exhales shakily, presses her back to the cold wall, and opens her palm. Blood. A thin crimson line runs across her hand. Tiny, shallow, already clotting, but unmistakably cut by one of the glass shards now scattered across the autopsy room floor. She closes her fingers around it, bites the inside of her cheek, then pulls out her phone, opens the camera. Her hands are still trembling, but the motion is trained, habitual. She knows what to do. First, she photographs the broken case through the window slit in the door, wide angle, then close-up. Then the damage trail. Splinter pattern of the glass. The smear of black where the symbol sits. Finally, her own hand. Blood visible. Context implied. She retrieves one of the larger shards still clinging to her coat and slips it into a sterile evidence pouch from her pocket. Catches the light oddly. The fracture lines don't just radiate, they spiral. Morgan frowns. She's documenting. That's what matters. That's what saves her. Because if another artifact vanishes on her shift, she's finished. No warning. No second strike. No committee hearing. Just the end of her career. The 1911 case was already controversial. A Victorian skeleton excavated under questionable authority. A convicted murderer turned museum curiosity. And now missing. No, not on her watch. Not again. She digs into her coat for the radio clipped to the inside lapel. Presses the button. "This is Dr. Morgan," she says, her voice clipped but thin. "I need security at Autopsy 3. Immediate presence. Possible breach." The radio hisses. Then nothing. She moves closer to the stairwell to get better reception. Tries again. "This is Morgan. I am reporting an active containment anomaly. Autopsy 3. Someone respond." This time she hears it. A click. Then a voice? Crackling. Half buried beneath static. "On my way." She doesn't recognize the voice right away. But the weight behind it, low, firm, practiced, makes her think of just one person. Harry O'Connell. She lowers the radio. Swallows hard. The hallway lights flicker again. Just once. And now she hears something new. Footsteps. Faint, but unmistakable. Coming from the far end of the corridor. Not rushed. Measured. As if someone is walking toward her, but not out of urgency. Out of habit. Her eyes scan the shadow beyond the next junction. Nothing yet. She tightens her grip on the evidence pouch in one hand, the radio still warm in the other. As the footsteps grow louder, the antiseptic scent returns. Too strong. Unnaturally strong. As if the hallway has just been wiped clean by invisible hands. She holds her breath. And then, Harry rounds the corner. Tall. Broad. Built like the soldier he used to be. His hand hovers near his belt. Not on a weapon, not quite, but close enough to say he remembers what it's like to be shot at. His eyes flick from Morgan to the sealed autopsy door, then to the blood on her hand. "You all right?" he asks, voice graveled from years of unfiltered cigarettes. "I need you to pull the surveillance," she replies. "And I need it now." He doesn't ask questions, but he does glance, just briefly, through the reinforced window in the door, at the ruin inside, the empty pedestal, the smear on the floor, and something about that glance makes her pause. It's too quick, too knowing, like he's seen it before, like he expected it. Morgan narrows her eyes, but before she can speak, Harry turns toward the security console down the hall, already reaching for his access key. Behind them, the hallway clock ticks louder than ever. Still just past 007. Part 4. Guard on edge. Harry O'Connell moves like someone trained to ignore noise. The kind of man who's walked through places where sound kills. Where a loose bootstep or a cough could mean your lungs fill with sand and you never breathe again. But tonight, the sound follows him. The fluorescent hum. The tick of the hallway clock. The low howl of the sea-fed wind, punching the hospital walls with waves of salt and fury. And now the sterile screech of security footage fast-forwarding frame by frame. He stands in front of the console, jaw locked tight, calloused fingers dancing across the keyboard. Each motion mechanical, practiced, detached. Morgan watches from behind. Her arms are folded tight across her chest. The blood on her palm now dried and flaking. The evidence pouch sits between them on the tray cart, next to a notebook, her voice recorder, and a single latex glove folded with surgical precision. "Show me the feed," she says. Harry nods once, his tone flat, pulling internal timestamp, 007 hours. "Let's see what our mystery guest did." On screen, the corridor outside Autopsy 3 appears. It's empty. Seconds crawl forward. 00:06:58. 00:06:59, then 7 minutes. The screen flares white, not a flash, a wall, a perfectly uniform, 7-second block of blankness. No static, no flicker, just pure digital blindness. Harry doesn't flinch, but Morgan does. What the hell is that? He shakes his head slowly. Looks like a dead feed, but it's too clean. No artifacting. He rewinds, pauses, advances again. It repeats. A blank slab of whiteness, exactly 7 seconds long. The moment the clock hits 0:07, reality vanishes. Morgan leans in. Packet loss. Harry checks the log files. Scrolls again. Nope. No dropped frames. No corrupted data. Just this. He looks up at her. Something behind his eyes twitches. Morgan narrows hers. This shouldn't be possible. No, he says. It shouldn't. The console lights stutter. Once. Then stabilize. Harry straightens. Adjusts his jacket. The tension in his shoulders has changed. Tightened. The same way it did when he used to man the checkpoint towers outside Basra. When the wind shifted wrong and you knew an IED was waiting somewhere up ahead. He shakes it off. Too late. The flash was back. Not on the screen, in his mind. Searchlights. Sand. Screams in a language you never learned but will never forget. His hand hovers near his hip again. Old reflex. Morgan sees it. Doesn't say anything. Instead, she steps closer. You've seen this before. It's not a question. Harry looks at her. His face blank. Then something else echoes down the hall. Footsteps. Sharp. Rhythmic. But not Harry's. Morgan turns. Approaching them, heels clicking like metronome blades, is a woman in a charcoal trench coat that cuts the air around her. White hair pinned with surgical efficiency. Eyes like polished amber behind librarian glasses. Professor Evelyn Hart. The hallway seems to shrink around her. She pauses at the doorway to Autopsy 3. Her eyes take in the broken case, the shattered glass, the faint outline of black on the tile beneath the emergency lighting. And she smiles. Just a little. The faceless prisoner, she murmurs, has walked again. Morgan exhales sharply. Harry, now visibly uncomfortable, shifts his stance. Great, he mutters. Now it's folklore time. But Professor Hart doesn't address him. Her gaze stays locked on the empty case. There's something reverent in the way she looks at it. Like she's not surprised. Like she's been waiting. Part 5, 7 seconds of white. The IT cart screeches faintly as it wheels down the hallway. 3 laptops stacked on its top tray, a diagnostic scanner clipped to the side, and 2 open Red Bulls wedged between rows of cables like improvised holy water. Samir Patel yawns as he pushes it, his hoodie soaked at the shoulders from the storm outside, fogged glasses slipping down his nose. Someone want to tell me why we're ghost hunting at midnight? He mutters, plugging a hard line into the wall port outside Autopsy 3. Was 5 minutes into a perfectly respectable burrito. Professor Hart doesn't even look at him. She kneels beside the broken pedestal, notebook already out, pencil scratching symbols furiously. Dr. Morgan leans against the far wall, arms crossed, eyes locked on the CCTV monitor like it might change if she stares hard enough. Harry O'Connell stands with his back to them all, watching, listening, waiting. Samir's screen blinks to life. He launches the digital logs from the surveillance system and scrolls to the entry labeled 007. The footage plays. And again, there it is. White. 7 seconds of it. Exactly. No flicker. No drop to static. Just pristine, blinding absence. Samir blinks. Okay. That's new. Morgan steps forward. Cause? No clue. Logs say the feed never stopped. No packet loss. No dropped frames. Just recorded nothing. Like the hallway itself refused to exist for 7 seconds. He rewinds. Freezes frame by frame. Every single pixel in that block is pure RGB white. Compression artifact? Nope. Overexposure. Not unless someone stuck a light cannon inside the camera housing. And this system's rated for surgical theater glare. He rubs his jaw. This shouldn't be possible. Morgan's stomach tightens. She's heard that sentence too many times this year. Harry finally turns around. Pull other angles. See if it's isolated to that hallway. Samir nods, typing fast. Footage from other parts of the facility pops up. Lobby, loading dock, main elevator shaft. All of them clean, except the corridor outside the museum wing, Samir says. Same 7-second wideout. Same time. Morgan moves beside him. What connects them? Samir shakes his head. They're not even on the same circuit. Behind them, Hart finally speaks. It wasn't the camera that went blind, she says without looking up. It was the hallway. Morgan stares. Excuse me? Professor Hart rises, dusts her coat off with fingers smudged in black. She holds up her notebook. The sigil, she says. I've seen half of it before, during the Cotter excavations in '96, and once in a footnote from the Montrose prison records. 1894. Morgan's face tightens. Are you saying this is some kind of ritual? I'm saying, Hart replies, that the faceless prisoner never belonged to this timeline, and now the veil thinned just enough for 7 seconds. Samir's chuckle is automatic, nervy. Great. Ghosts that DDoS the universe. Harry, still silent, shifts his weight. His eyes rest on the playback screen again. And for a heartbeat, he leans in too close. As if he thinks, no, as if he knows there was something behind the white. Not in it. Behind it. The monitor flickers, then stabilizes. 7 seconds. Frozen. Unexplained. Unwelcome. Part 6, Scholar of Shadows. Professor Evelyn Hart's fingers hover inches above the smeared glyph on the autopsy tile. The chalky residue clings to her gloves like ash from a long-dead fire. She doesn't flinch at the smell. Smoke and antiseptic, blood and ozone. She inhales it like memory. The sigil is incomplete, she murmurs. Morgan stands just behind her, arms still folded. You said you recognized it. I recognize half, Hart replies. And half for this one is dangerous. Samir squats near the cart, chewing on his hoodie drawstring as he scans the room. So what was it? Satanic panic? Local cult? One of those TikTok death puzzles. Hart doesn't answer him. Her eyes are on the pedestal now, on the faint outline left by what used to be there. She rises to her feet, voice low and distant. You had a name for it, she says, more to herself than anyone else. Back then, when names were more curse than record. Morgan steps closer. The specimen, the 1911 remains. What do you know? Hart lifts her gaze, meeting Morgan's eyes. Not what, she says. Who? She taps her notebook. In the prison records, he was known as the faceless prisoner. A beat of silence, the kind that sucks the warmth from a room. Harry snorts behind them. That's comforting. Hart continues, unbothered. He was executed by hanging in 1894. A triple murderer. Never identified. No photos. No fingerprints. The face was so badly burned they logged him without a mugshot. Skull shattered post-mortem to prevent recognition. Why? Morgan asks. Why go that far? Because, Hart says, he laughed through the whole thing. They thought he might be faking his death. Or worse, transferring it. Morgan's stare hardens. That's not science. No, Hart says with the faintest smile. It's history. Samir squints. So why is he in our basement? Hart gestures toward the cracked glass case. In 1911, his remains were rediscovered by workers expanding the Montrose line. No one claimed the bones. No next of kin. No cemetery would take them. Morgan nods slowly. So they sent him here, as medical study material, labeled 1911 for cataloging. But you'll notice, he never made it into the standard rotation. Morgan thinks. Because no one wanted to touch it. Because every time he was moved, equipment failed. Lights shorted. Clocks desynced. Bodies in adjacent lockers decayed faster. He was rotated out, sealed, and forgotten. Until someone, her eyes flick toward Morgan. logged him back into observation. I ran a DNA match, Morgan says. No hits. There won't be. Samir glances up. Wait, if no one's touched him for years, how'd that mark get under the case? Hart doesn't blink. It didn't. She kneels again, opens her field notebook. Begins sketching the full glyph. Her pencil dances across the page with a scholar's precision. Every stroke a whisper of obsession. This symbol, when whole, means convergence. A reunification of things torn apart. Morgan stiffens. Reunification of what? Of pieces. She closes the notebook. Of vessels. Her gaze flicks to Harry, who doesn't move. Hart's tone softens, but her eyes harden. Something very old is looking for its other half. Morgan steps back. We're dealing with a fossil, not a ghost. Hart's lips curl ever so slightly. What's the difference after midnight? The emergency lights above flicker once. Barely noticeable unless you're waiting. And they are. Samir reaches down, brushing the edge of the black smear on the floor with a swab. His scanner beeps. He frowns. This residue, it's lampblack. Pure carbon pigment. Charcoal? Morgan asks. Charcoal and... He squints. Bone dust. Refined. Harry mutters under his breath. DIY Satanists. No one laughs. Morgan crouches, picks up a crumb of the pigment with gloved fingers. Just a speck. It clings to her glove as if it wants to stay. Without thinking, she slips it into a second evidence pouch and slides it into her coat. Behind her, Hart whispers a line from memory. Half lullaby, half curse. What was buried with silence returns with a name. Thunder rolls above them. Low, long, and far too intentional. Part 7, Circle of Charcoal. Professor Hart crouches low, the hem of her coat brushing the sterile tile as she sketches. Her notebook lies flat beside the half-burned glyph, pencil tapping once, twice, before dragging its first line. This isn't a summoning, she murmurs. It's a convergence seal, designed to locate something lost. Morgan kneels opposite her, watching closely. So it calls what? A spirit? No, Hart says, not looking up. A missing vessel. The body. The heart. The name. Whatever was separated, violently or unnaturally, is being pulled back together. Samir raises an eyebrow. Like a magnetic field? More like emotional gravity, Hart replies. He shudders. I hate that I understand that. She finishes the sketch. The completed symbol is circular but uneven, like it was drawn by someone whose hand couldn't stop trembling. Its edges suggest motion, like it wants to spin but never quite begins. At 3 points around the ring, glyphs. In old Pictish style, Hart points to each. This one is blood debt. This one, echo vessel. And here, she pauses. That's return. Or loop. It's not entirely clear. Morgan leans in. Loop to what? Hart's voice lowers. Loop to self. Samir runs a handheld scanner across the tile. Pings twice, then registers. Material breakdown. 62% carbon black. Lamp soot. Maybe pine tar. The rest is calcium particulate. Bone dust like earlier. Harry folds his arms. Whose bone dust? Hart tilts her head toward the empty pedestal. His, most likely. Samir backs up slightly. Great. So the corpse drew on its own case. Morgan stands. Or something drew with it. Hart closes her notebook and rises to full height. There's no record of this symbol being completed ever. The last time it surfaced in full was the Carrowmore dig. 1972. The day 3 workers collapsed in a trench. All said they heard their own funeral. Samir frowns. That makes zero sense and I hate it. Harry steps toward the glyph. His boot hovers just shy of it. So what happens now? Hart's answer is simple. It's begun. A pause. Then Morgan, against every instinct, reaches into her pocket and pulls out the crumb of charcoal she'd taken earlier. She holds it between her thumb and forefinger. A smear darkens the latex glove. She frowns. Hart notices. Her expression shifts slightly. You took part of the circle. she says softly. I didn't know, Morgan replies. You never know. That's how it starts. The hallway light dims, just briefly, but enough to make everyone glance up at once. And then, through the vents overhead, a low sigh passes. Not air, not machinery, a breath. Harry mutters, if I die in this place, I'm haunting you all. Samir forces a smile. Deal. But none of them laugh. Heart speaks again, almost to herself. It wants its pieces. That's the logic. The curse demands wholeness. And if it can't find the original pieces, she trails off. Her eyes go to the group. Morgan, Harry, Samir, each of them carrying something now. Each of them standing inside what used to be a sealed room. She steps back, draws a chalk line just outside the glyph with the side of her pencil. Then whispers, we shouldn't have opened the case. Outside, thunder cracks. Less a sound, more a sentence. And in its wake, the lights hum like a throat clearing. Part 8 Curse of the Pyx. Professor Hart sits cross-legged now, the rain beating louder against the ventilation shafts above as if the building itself is reacting. From the inside pocket of her coat, she removes a brittle, yellowed field journal. Stitched spine, cloth corners frayed, pages curled like dried leaves. She handles it the way some people hold bones. This belonged to my mentor, she says. Dr. Kylene Forbes excavated the Glen Torren ruins in 1956. Found a burial pit sealed with fireclay and carved stone. She flips gently through pages until she lands on one so fragile the ink is nearly dust. Then she reads aloud. What is torn apart will forever seek itself whole. Keep the wax from bone. Keep the name from breath. The heart must never rejoin the hollow. Samir blinks. That's a poem, not a procedure. It's a curse, Hart says, or a safeguard, depending on who you were burying. She slides the journal across the floor to Morgan. The Pyx believed certain criminals, especially murderers, could return if their remains weren't divided. So they'd separate the body, sometimes bury the heart in wax, sometimes burn it and keep the ashes sealed. Morgan frowns. We have no record of that kind of ritual, because it was never formalized. It wasn't religious, it was survival. You remove the heart to trap the spirit's intent. If they come back wrong. Empty. Looking. Harry tilts his head. Looking for what? Hart looks up. Wholeness. She taps the journal. Your skeleton downstairs? It was executed, then buried improperly, then exhumed. But there's no record of cremation, and the bones are too complete. Morgan flips through her digital pathology notes. Skull intact, spine fused, dental bridge still seated. No heart residue noted in the thoracic cavity. Samir leans in. So where's the heart? Hart's smile is thin. If it was removed according to the curse, it would have been molded in wax and buried apart. And if someone found it? Her silence is answer enough. Morgan stands. Okay, stop. This is too much coincidence. Is it? Hart asks softly. Because the whiteout happened at 007. And guess what entry number your specimen was logged under? Morgan freezes. Specimen 1900 to 11. Samir whispers. 11. Morgan's mind reels. That doesn't mean. 11 reversed is 07. Hart finishes. Harry speaks now, voice like gravel. Why would someone bring this thing back? Hart looks at him. Then very slowly, she says, some debts don't vanish. They wait. And if someone tried to interfere with that waiting, steal, sell, disturb, then the seal would rupture. Morgan swallows. Her gloved hand brushes the evidence pouch in her pocket, the crumb of charcoal. It wants what was taken. Samir's handheld buzzes. He glances down. Motion alert. Basement corridor. Camera 6. All heads turn. The screen on his cart flickers to life. A grainy feed from the basement corridor blinks up. And on it, a figure. Gaunt. Tall. Its body skeletal, ribs too long, limbs hanging loose but somehow controlled. And where the neck ends, a skull, lashed crudely atop with twine and wire. No face, just sockets. The figure turns, looks up at the camera. Frame freezes. 011. Samir's voice cracks. That's not possible. Harry whispers. It wants something below. Part 9, Ghost on the lift. The monitor crackles once, then clears. Everyone in the hallway stares. And on the screen, gray-toned, low-res with the buzzing hum of a 1980s VCR tape. Something inhuman moves. The basement corridor stretches in sterile concrete. Flickering motion sensor lights stutter every few meters. And in the center of the frame, it walks, or limps, or glides. No one's sure. The figure is long-limbed, wrong in the way its weight falls. The spine curves like it was stitched backward. Bone scrapes against the floor in jerky rhythm. And its arms, disproportionately long, swing too slow like they're moving in syrup. Samir mutters. Nope, nope, absolutely not. Morgan says nothing. Her nails dig into her own forearm. Hart's eyes are locked wide, but not afraid. Fascinated. It's looking for something, she whispers. It's not just wandering. Harry clenches his jaw. And then the figure stops, right in front of the elevator. The lift doors open before it even pushes a button. Samir's voice is barely audible. No sensor would have triggered from that distance. The skeleton, if it can be called that, steps inside the lift. Its skull, lashed crudely atop its neck stump with dark cords, tilts back, staring directly at the camera. Its mouth is open, but it doesn't speak. The doors begin to close, then pause, and the lights above the elevator flash once, twice, 3 times. The timestamp in the corner of the footage freezes as the lift descends. 11 minutes. Perfect mirror. Morgan blinks. It waited. It waited for the number. 11, Hart murmurs. The year it was logged. A mirror of itself. Harry swears under his breath. It knows what time it is. A mechanical clang echoes through the hallway. Not from the monitor. From below. Somewhere deep in the foundation. The elevator has stopped. Samir checks the building schematic. That lift only goes to sublevel 3. Emergency archive vaults. No one's been down there in years. Hart's lips twitch. That's where old debt sleeps. Morgan exhales. That's where it's heading. Harry speaks first. We call for backup. Real backup. Police. Military. I don't care if it's Sunday. No, Morgan snaps. If we alert anyone and this thing vanishes again, we'll lose it forever. The case will go cold, worse than cold. Buried. We stop it now. Samir shakes his head. Stop it how? You saw it. That thing didn't walk. It navigated. Hart looks up from the monitor. If it's going to reunite with what it lost, we can't let it reach it first. A moment of silence. Then, Morgan looks at Harry. You armed? He nods, slowly. Not that it'll help. Doesn't matter, she says. We're going down. No offense, Samir says, raising a hand. But can we pause and consider the part where the literal dead man with missing organs is using our elevators and time-stamping his hauntings? Hart stands up. No time, she says flatly. Whatever's down there is closer to completing the ritual than we are to understanding it. Harry pulls his keycard, but the elevator access panel beside them is flashing red. Locked, he mutters. Emergency protocol. The system's overriding us. Stairs then, Morgan says. Samir groans. Of course it's stairs. Morgan pulls her coat tighter and walks toward the stairwell door. Harry draws his flashlight. The beam flickers. Samir unplugs the IT cart, grabs his tablet, and mutters something about regretting every career choice. Professor Hart follows last. Her fingers brushing the wall as she walks, trailing near a hairline crack that wasn't there 10 minutes ago. It runs downward, toward sublevel 3, toward the furnace vaults. Part 10, Decision to Descend. The stairwell door groans as Harry shoulders it open. Cold air rushes out. Not the metallic chill of climate control, but something older, damper. It carries the scent of mildew, long dead paper, rusted hinges, and something else. A sweetness underneath it all. Faint, like wax, Morgan's eyes adjust quickly to the emergency floodlights lining the stairwell walls. Red bulbs cast the concrete in a dull arterial glow. 3 levels down. No elevators. No help. No margin for error. She turns back to the others. "We go now," she says, "before it finds what it's looking for." Samir raises a hand, tablet flickering with basement schematics. Or, and hear me out, we let it do that, and we don't follow the reanimated murder skeleton into a possibly cursed archive vault. Morgan shoots him a look. He sighs. "Had to try." Hart folds her arms. "The ritual's begun. If we intervene too late, it might complete." Harry crosses his arms. "And if we intervene too early, we become the offering." Everyone falls silent. Then Hart says softly, "He's not walking randomly. This is a path. And paths like these were carved with rules." Morgan looks at her. "What rules?" Hart's voice is quiet but steady. "You can't stop what was torn apart from seeking itself. But you can seal it. If all pieces are present. If the debt is paid." Samir mutters, "Well, great. Anyone got a spare ritual debt in their back pocket?" Harry's eyes flick toward the others. "This is stupid," he says. "We should call in backup. Real backup." Morgan doesn't move. "My name's already on the case," she replies. "The glass is in my evidence bag. The footage is on your system. The charcoal is in my coat." Her voice sharpens. "If that thing disappears again, my career ends. But worse, we know it happened. We'll live with that." A beat. Then Hart. "And something tells me it won't stop after tonight." Morgan turns to the others. "We stop it. Or we never sleep again." Harry's jaw tightens. He nods once, curt. Samir shakes his head but steps forward anyway. "I'm going to regret this before we even hit the landing." Hart pulls a compact lantern from her satchel. "Old-fashioned. Flame-based. Flashlights may die," she says. "But fire remembers." Morgan retrieves one from the emergency locker beside the stairwell. So does Harry. Samir mutters about copywriting his will. As they prepare, Morgan moves to the stairwell door and keys in a code. A loud clunk echoes as the upper lock engages. Harry frowns. "You just sealed the floor." "If something comes back up," she says. "I'd rather it knock." Samir swallows hard. Lanterns lit, the group steps into the stairwell. The door closes behind them with a finality that feels too symbolic. From the depths below, the building makes a new sound. A long, hollow groan, like stone sliding against stone. Then, darkness. The emergency lights above them sputter once. Then die. Total black. Only the flickering glow of their lanterns remains. One by one they descend. 3 stories. Down into the vault where forgotten records rot. Where the old furnace sleeps. And somewhere below, the bones are waiting. Part 11 lights out. Purpose. Strip away modern safety nets. The stairwell swallows them. At first, the silence is total until they realize it isn't silence at all. It's breathing. Not from them. The building. Concrete sighs under pressure. Vents exhale residual heat. Steel rebar moans softly behind the walls, shifting under old weight. And somewhere far below, a faint, slow clang, repetitive, like chains, or doors, or both. Samir's lantern sputters once. He smacks it lightly. "Please," he whispers to it. "I'm not emotionally prepared to die in red lighting." Morgan leads, her lantern casting a shaky ring of orange ahead. The steps descend at a steep pitch, designed for utility, not comfort. Each step echoes like a question no one wants answered. They pass the first landing, sub-level 1. Old records. Obsolete lab storage. No movement. Then the second, sub-level 2. A flood warning light blinks twice and dies. Somewhere above them, they hear the click of relays resetting. And then the hum. Faint, high-pitched, too steady. Morgan halts. "What is that?" "Generators," Harry replies, trying to kick back in. Then, nothing. The hum stops. No click. No return of power. The building doesn't just go dark. It gives up. They are officially off the grid. Samir's tablet flickers in protest, battery warning flashing. Okay, okay, he mutters. Don't panic. I downloaded offline backups. We've got partial schematics, chemical logs, some audio records, and oh good, a corrupted folder titled, Do Not Open. That's always encouraging. Hart chuckles softly. Morgan doesn't. Instead, she turns to look at them all. The lantern light shifts over their faces, and for a moment, none of them look quite real. The shadows warp their features, making eyes look sunken, smiles seem carved, expressions unreadable. The flickering makes Hart look older, makes Harry look haunted, and Samir, he's whispering something under his breath. A loop of syllables like a mantra. Morgan touches his shoulder. You okay? He startles, blinks, nods too fast. Just staying centered. That's a thing, right? They descend again. The last stretch. And now the air changes. Colder. Still. Dry but heavy. Like breath held in the lungs of something large. The steps narrow. And as they round the final bend toward sublevel 3, the last lantern dims for just a moment. In that flicker, Morgan swears she sees something move behind them. A shadow cast from inside their circle of light. When the flame brightens again, there's nothing. But the metal handrail feels warm under her fingers. Too warm. And beneath the soles of her shoes, a subtle vibration. Barely there. A pulse. Hart stops walking. She raises her lantern. Holds it out toward the wall. There, half hidden behind a streak of soot, is a painted rune. Fresh. 3 points intersecting like a fractured compass. Still wet. Morgan crouches. Touches the edge of the symbol. It smears like oil on her glove. She looks up. Someone passed through minutes ago. Harry wipes another rune nearby. His palm comes away slick with black. Still warm. Samir checks the tablet. No motion logged. Nothing pinged. That's the point, Hart says quietly. It's not motion. It's intention. They look at one another. And for a moment, in the red glow of the lanterns, their grouped silhouettes reflect against the wall beside the rune. Perfect mirror. 3 human shapes. Lanterns raised. One missing a face. Then the shadow flickers, and they step forward. Down the final 5 steps. And into the mouth of the forgotten furnace hall. Part 12, Runes on Stone. The door at the bottom of the stairwell isn't a door. It's a bulkhead. Steel. Reinforced. Unpainted. And cracked slightly open. Someone's already passed through. Harry steps forward first. Shoulder presses against the frame. It creaks inward, opening into blackness so complete it swallows the lantern light like smoke in water. The group enters one by one. And the first thing they see, not the furnace, not the vault, but the walls, covered in symbols, not sprayed, not etched, but painted with meticulous care, in strokes that shine wet and smell like burnt pine and old teeth. Runes, triple-pointed, spiraled, spiraling again. Some complete, some incomplete, all watching. Professor Hart stops cold. Her lips part in quiet awe. These weren't here 10 years ago, she whispers. This corridor was clean. Morgan raises her lantern. The light dances over dozens, no hundreds of marks. Some overlap. Some are ringed in tiny bones or knots of dark string. What do they say? She asks. Hart steps closer, scanning the nearest wall. This one, Hart. She moves sideways. Debt. Another. Fire. Then, split vessel. She pauses. And then, low in her throat, recites a half-remembered phrase in a language no one else speaks. Samir asks, "What was that?" "Pictish chant form," Hart replies. "It's a binding rhythm. You'd say it while burying a piece of someone far from the rest. A way to keep the soul confused." Morgan mutters, "We didn't confuse anything. We brought it all back under one roof." Harry wipes a rune with his glove. The black pigment smears like tar. He sniffs his fingers. Regret floods his face. It's fresh. Samir steps back. It's like something came before us and prepped the space. Or something's been writing as it moves. Hart adds, "These aren't warnings. They're instructions." Morgan turns, scanning both walls. These go all the way down the hall? They do. The corridor bends left, then right, each angle marked with more glyphs. Some are drawn low to the ground, crawling height. Others reach up the wall like someone taller than any of them left a trail mid-stride. They keep walking. Their shadows flicker and multiply. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, the light from their lanterns begins to cast more than one outline per person. Hart notices first. She stops, holds her lantern out. On the wall for shadows. But only 3 people. She doesn't speak, just watches. And the 4th shadow tilts its head. Morgan sees it a second later. Freezes. Then, the lantern sputters. And all 4 shadows snap back into alignment. Samir gulps. Can we not do that again? Up ahead, the corridor widens. The temperature drops. Breath becomes visible. Hart whispers. We're almost to the furnace. A final rune spans the arch above the next doorway. Larger than the rest. Written in something thicker. The light dances across the crude, smeared strokes. Morgan steps closer. Hart translates under her breath. All debts return to flame. The metal beneath the rune hums. The doorway creaks. And the group enters the abandoned furnace hall. Part 13. Forgotten Furnace Hall. The furnace hall yawns open like the throat of something ancient. Its ceiling is vaulted stone, stained black with a century of soot. Rows of rusted gurney rails run like skeletal veins across the floor. Twisted metal meant for bodies long gone. Several of the carts remain, their surfaces corroded, wheel locks fused in place by time and salt air. Morgan steps inside first. The temperature shift is immediate. Despite the depth, despite the stone, it's cold. The kind of cold that doesn't bite, it clings, condenses behind your eyes, makes each breath hang thick in the air like exhaled secrets. Samir rubs his hands together. It's freezing. I thought this place was sealed. Hart responds quietly. It was, until something opened it again. She raises her lantern. The light illuminates an entire wall of dormant cremation ovens. Tall, narrow metal mouths sealed with riveted doors. Most are rusted shut, but one stands ajar, door crooked, a faint glow emanating from within. Not bright but wrong, green-tinged, unnatural. Harry tightens his grip on the flashlight. That should not be lit. The gas line to this level was cut after the '04 archive fire. Morgan steps toward it. Her boots crunch across brittle char underfoot. She stops beside a cart tipped partially on its side. Drag marks in the soot leading from the vault door to the open furnace. She crouches. They moved something recently. Or, it moved itself. Hart examines the floor. See the ash pattern? She asks. It's circular, like a ritual trace, but interrupted. Someone broke the seal before it finished. Morgan frowns. By opening the door? Or by removing a piece? The group moves deeper. Then Samir stops cold. Guys. They turn. He shines his lantern at the far corner. A gurney, slightly newer, cleaner, dragged from the wall and positioned directly beneath a suspended exhaust chute. And on it, bones. A full skeleton, lying neatly arranged. Every vertebra stacked. Every finger bone aligned. Pelvis fused. Femurs long. Skull placed with care at the head. Jaw slack as if exhaling. Morgan approaches slowly, eyes wide. They're whole. The bones don't look dry. They glisten faintly, not with moisture, but with heat. The metal tray beneath them radiates warmth. And in the center of the ribcage, a hollow blackened cavity. Charred edges ring where a heart once lived. Hart leans in. All pieces present, she whispers. Except one. Samir's breath catches. The heart. Harry shifts his weight. His hand trembles slightly near his hip. Why rebuild the body if it can't finish? Hart glances at him. It's not for us to ask. The ritual only cares that the vessel returns. Morgan notices something. At the base of the tray, something's been scratched into the metal. Not etched with a tool. Carved. Repeatedly. Obsessively. A date. 007. Then again beneath it, 011. Then again, 107. 3 timestamps. Heart murmurs. The first breach. The mirror hour. The final convergence. Harry turns away. He's pale. Sweat glistens at his temple. Morgan notices. So does Hart. They exchange a glance, but say nothing yet. Behind them, the open furnace hums faintly. And from the bones, a whisper. Too soft to be voice. Too loud to be accident. Like breath. Inside a body with no lungs. Part 14 Reassembled remains. Morgan leans over the gurney. The bones are perfect. Too perfect. No cracks, no dust. The spinal column has fused at 3 separate locations, almost like time itself mended the gaps. The sternum is flattened slightly, as if crushed and rehealed. The phalanges, finger bones, are curled inward, resting on the metal like hands waiting to rise. The skull faces upward, not tilted, not slumped, as if it's listening to something above, as if it knows it's being watched. Morgan swallows hard. She lowers her lantern, letting the flickering flame skim the surface of the ribcage. A clean circle, blackened, cauterized at the edges, right where the heart should be. Heart steps forward. No connective tissue, no wire, no mounting rods. It's not being displayed. It assembled itself. Harry shakes his head, voice dry. That's impossible. Is it? Hart shoots back. We have a documented whiteout, a missing artifact, motion in sealed corridors. And now this. She gestures to the gurney. This isn't performance. It's ritual logic. We're standing in the last stage. Samir circles slowly, his tablet held out like a totem against what he's seeing. There's no signature on the logs, no motion detect ping on the furnace door. But there was electromagnetic fluctuation during the time window. High frequency, sustained. Enough to animate? Morgan asks. Hart replies without looking up. Enough to bind, but something's still missing. That's why it hasn't moved. She steps closer. I told you earlier, she says softly. The Picts believed the spirit couldn't rest or rise until the heart rejoined the hollow. She points. This is the hollow. Samir frowns. What if someone already tried to complete it? Hart straightens. Then we'd be dealing with a reversed seal, which means, instead of containing the curse, it pulls. Morgan leans in, inspecting the bones again. There's a faint discoloration along the scapula. Fingerprints, perhaps, like something had gripped the shoulder blade with waxy pressure. Her voice shakes. We're too late. Hart shakes her head. No, it's waiting. The body is ready. But the ritual needs the missing vessel. Harry takes a half step back. His boots squeak faintly on the steel floor. Hart doesn't notice. She whispers again, almost reverently. All here, but the debt of blood. Suddenly, ping. Samir's tablet lights up. Hold on. New log just synced. The screen flickers. An old file has surfaced. Unarchived. Previously corrupted. Facility record from 12 months ago, he mutters. Private storage unit request. Specimen tag cross-referenced with weight. He scrolls. Morgan leans over his shoulder. The record reads, Item. Wax funeral heart. Status. Missing. Log date. 12 months prior. Removed by keyholder number 0876. O'Connell. Harry. Everything freezes. Except the gurney. The bones on it twitch. A single finger lifts. Then drops. Morgan turns to face Harry. He's already stepping backward. His face pale. His mouth a flat, hard line of guilt. Harry, Morgan says. No answer. Behind her, Hart's voice is flat. Cold. You took the heart. Samir's voice cracks. Why would you? But then, from inside the gurney, thump. A deep, dull echo. A wet sound. Like something heavy falling inside something hollow. A second thump follows. Slower. Rhythmic. A beat. A heartbeat. Inside an empty ribcage. Harry retreats further into shadow. Guilt thick around him. Morgan doesn't move. She just watches. eyes locked on the impossible. Part 15, Missing Wax Heart. Silence falls like lead. Samir doesn't look up from the tablet. His thumb scrolls mechanically, as if hoping the data will rewrite itself. It doesn't. Item removed. Wax funeral heart. Storage class. Ritual artifact. Unclassified. Signed out. Keyholder number 0876. O'Connell. H. Reason code. Maint. Inventory correction. Date. 12 months prior. Morgan turns toward Harry. Tell me this is a mistake. He doesn't answer. The heartbeat inside the gurney continues. Thump, thump, slow but steady, like a drum waiting for the ritual to begin. Morgan steps closer. Harry, did you take it? Still, he says nothing. But he doesn't deny it. Heart moves to stand beside the gurney, voice a scalpel now. You signed it out under false code, a ritual heart, and you removed it without alerting any archival officer. That isn't inventory correction. That's theft. Harry finally speaks, quiet, clipped. I didn't know what it was. Morgan snaps. Then why take it? A pause. Then Harry breathes in through his nose, slow and shallow. There was a man, collector, used to stop by the pub I bounced at during shifts. Talked about historical oddities. Paid cash for anything rare. Said it was just a lump of wax. Didn't think it'd matter. Samir stares at him. You sold a cursed heart to a collector on Craigslist? Harry's jaw tightens. I didn't know it was real. Hart's voice is low and lethal. You handed over a funerary heart, an active containment vessel, and didn't think to report it? I thought it was junk. You knew it wasn't junk. Morgan hisses. You knew, or you wouldn't have lied on the log. She steps closer. You didn't just breach protocol. You broke containment. You're why this is happening. Harry opens his mouth to speak, then stops, because the heartbeat is louder now. Thump, thump. It comes from inside the skeleton, from the empty blackened cavity. Heart leans in slowly. The ribcage vibrates, ever so slightly. Samir's tablet buzzes in his hand, sensors picking up acoustic resonance. There's nothing in there, he says. I scanned it. It's hollow. Heart murmurs. Not anymore. From the furnace in the corner, the green glow pulses. Just once. A flare, then stillness. Morgan turns toward it. It's reacting. Samir nods. Like it's waiting for something. No. Hart says, her voice barely audible. Not something. Someone. They all look at Harry. His face is gray. His hands tremble. He backs away, nearly stumbling over a broken cartwheel. Morgan steps forward. Harry, where did it go? Who did you sell it to? I don't remember, he says. You better remember. Morgan snaps. He shakes his head. No name. No ID. Just cash. Samir glances at the tablet. Maybe we can trace the transaction. Serial numbers. Local surveillance. No time, Hart interrupts. Her eyes never leave the skeleton. The bones are shifting now. Microscopically. Imperceptibly. But they are. Aligning. Readying. The heartbeat continues. Thump, thump. Morgan grips the side of the gurney. She speaks slowly, with weight. Then tell us where the ledger is. Harry looks up, confused. The what? Hart answers. The thief's ledger. A record of what was taken and why. If the original heart is lost, the intention behind its removal might substitute in ritual logic. Samir frowns. So, his guilt. His confession, Hart confirms. If it's honest and offered willingly, it might complete the circle. Behind them, the gurney vibrates again. The tray squeals metal on metal. A low sound, but rising. Harry closes his eyes. He's sweating now. Morgan whispers, "Tell the truth." The heartbeat answers for him. Thump, thump, thump. Part 16, tension in the dark. The green glow from the furnace throbs once more, then fades like a blink withheld too long. Harry stands near the far wall now, arms tense, sweat beading across his forehead. He looks like he's bracing for impact from what he doesn't know. I said I don't remember, he growls. It was just a side hustle. Trinkets. Leftovers. Nobody cared until it vanished. Morgan steps forward, voice sharp. Except it wasn't a trinket. It was a sealed funerary relic with no match on any record outside Montrose. You knew that, Harry. That's why you falsified the removal code. Don't, he snaps back. Don't make me the villain here. Samir cuts in, eyes flicking between them. You literally sold a cursed heart. So yeah, villain's kind of on the table. I needed the money, Harry snaps. 2 mortgages. My kid's school. The overtime wasn't enough. You ever try explaining a past due balance to a 7-year-old? His voice echoes louder than it should. Morgan doesn't back off. So you let the wrong hands take something we didn't understand for money. And now that thing is walking around our facility. Hart says nothing. She simply watches. Her face is unreadable. But her eyes are cataloging everything. Every breath, every lie, every twitch of conscience. She's building a psychological glyph in real time, and Harry's guilt is becoming her ink. A moment of silence stretches thin. Then, click, the lanterns flicker. Samir's goes out first. Then Hart's. Morgan's flares one last time before sputtering into black. Darkness. Total. But not stillness. Somewhere in the dark. Whispering. Not in English. Not human. A brittle, clicking cadence. Like teeth grinding words into the air. Then, Harry. His name. Drawn out. Too close. Too inside. Harry freezes. That wasn't any of you? No. Samir says from somewhere to his left, voice high. Nope. Absolutely not. Lanterns. Morgan shouts. Reignite them. They fumble. A clang behind the gurney. Another whisper. The debt. Then, is still unpaid. Flame. Hart's lantern is first to return. Then Morgan's. Then Samir's. And what they see is the skeleton, no longer lying flat. Now it sits upright on the tray. Its limbs dangle over the edge like a puppet paused mid-show. The skull tilts slightly. Its empty sockets stare at Harry. His jaw unhinges just a little, as if it's about to speak. No one breathes. Then Hart speaks softly, like a lullaby turned wrong. It only waits for confession now. The skeleton shifts again. The tray beneath it squeals. Samir whispers, I really don't want to know what happens if it doesn't get one. Harry backs further into the shadows, breath uneven. Morgan steps toward him, voice firm. Harry, if you want to survive this, you talk. Behind them, the furnace hums again. The heartbeat in the ribs matches it beat for beat. And now, every light in the hall pulses green once, then returns to orange flame. A warning. Not for all of them, just for him. Part 17, Harry's Guilt. The flame from Morgan's lantern wavers. Its light brushes across Harry O'Connell's face. Drawn tight, ash gray, haunted by something older than this night. His eyes aren't on the group. They're locked on the skeleton sitting upright just 15 feet away. A skeleton that shouldn't move, that shouldn't breathe, that shouldn't be watching him. And yet, it is. Harry, Morgan says softly. Tell us what happened. He doesn't answer at first, but his hand twitches. A tremor, then another, until it becomes a rhythm, not a tremble, a pulse, matching the heartbeat inside the gurney. Thump, thump, then, flashback. No magic, no sound cue, just memory snapping open like a wound torn too fast. Pawn shop. Tiled floor stained with oil. A humming mini-fridge in the corner. Fluorescent light yellowed from nicotine and regret. Harry's younger. Still broad. Still quiet. He's holding a small black case. Inside, nestled in foam, a wax heart. Human-sized. Dull brown-red. Smooth but cracked. Like something that shouldn't have outlived its owner. The buyer doesn't ask questions. Just lays down a wad of cash and says, Unique craftsmanship. I collect these. Harry doesn't care. He signs the release form with a fake name. Walks out. Tells himself it's nothing. Tells himself it's just a job. Back to now. His voice is barely above a whisper. I took it because no one else would even look at it. Everyone treated it like trash. Like a leftover. You know how much stuff gets thrown out of storage around here. He steps forward, eyes never leaving the bones. I needed cash. It was a lump of wax with a number tag. The records were corrupted. Nobody asked for it. So I moved it. Morgan's voice is calm. And you never tried to recover it? Harry's mouth twitches. I thought about it. But then, weird things started happening. Lights going out on my shift. Cold spots in the archive. One time I passed the vault and heard something ticking. Thought it was in my head. Samir mutters. It wasn't. Harry swallows. I didn't think it was real until the whiteout. He looks at Hart. You were right. Some debts wait. Hart gives no satisfaction in her face. She simply observes. Measures. Weighs. And what do you think it's waiting for now? She asks quietly. Harry glances at the bones. At the gaping cavity in the ribcage. At the black smear beneath the skull. At the timestamps carved into the tray. His voice cracks. It's waiting for me. Then, the skeleton's head tilts. Just a little, but undeniably. As if it heard him. As if it understood. Samir breathes. Nope, 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 nope. Morgan holds up a hand. Wait. The heartbeat in the room slows. Thump, thump. Harry takes one more step forward. I sold it. For £400. Paid off a heating bill. He exhales. And in that exhale something leaves him. Like ash shaken loose from a long-dead fire. He looks at Morgan. I'm sorry. Morgan stares back. Eyes hard. Then softening. Just a little. The skeleton exhales too. But there are no lungs. Only silence. Only stillness. Only waiting. Part 18, Confession. For a moment, the room holds its breath. No one speaks. The skeleton doesn't move again. It just sits. Bones aligned, spine straight, face empty, and listens. Morgan turns slowly toward Harry, voice low but sharp. You committed theft. You falsified records. You broke containment protocol and something, paid the price for your greed. I know, Harry murmurs. You lied to all of us. I know. He repeats softer. Samir finally finds his voice. And you didn't think to say anything when the glass exploded? When the skeleton vanished? Harry's eyes don't rise. I thought, if I stayed quiet it would pass. Morgan's voice is ice. It's not passing. It's converging. Hart steps forward now, her tone different. Not judgmental, not forgiving, but ritualistic. Debt requires record, she says. If the heart is gone, the intention must substitute. Thought made matter. Guilt made object. Samir frowns. What kind of object? Hart's eyes find Harry. You kept a log, didn't you? He blinks. What? A ledger. Something, anything, that records what you took and why. Harry hesitates. There's a journal. In my locker. At the security desk. I wrote down every item I moved. What it was. Where it went. I thought it'd protect me. In case something came back. It has, Morgan says. Hart nods. That book may serve as surrogate. A substitute for the heart? Samir asks. No. A substitute for the deed. The ritual doesn't need the flesh. Only the truth. And now we have it. Morgan pulls out the pouch from her coat. The charcoal crumb she pocketed. The one that smeared her glove. The one she now realizes was a piece of the circle itself. I've still got part of the symbol, she says. We can finish it. Hart raises her eyebrows. It's blood-sealed. You took it without offering. That imbalance must be corrected. Morgan looks down at her hand. The scar from the glass shard has reopened. Faint but enough. She presses her thumb into it. Lets a drop of blood mix into the ash. Samir backs away slightly. So what now? We throw it in the furnace and hope it likes symbolic gestures? Hart steps toward the gurney. No, she says. We burn the ledger, the crumb, the debt and the fragment, together, intention and vessel, fire and ash. Samir mutters, this sounds extremely not OSHA compliant. Behind them, the skeleton shifts again. Thump. The gurney tray trembles. The bones do not fall apart. They wait. Morgan turns to Harry. You get that ledger. Now. He hesitates, then sprints out through the hallway, lantern in hand, footsteps echoing between the cursed runes. Samir watches him go. You trust him to come back? He has no choice, Morgan replies. Hart kneels beside the gurney, her voice a whisper now. Every circle completes itself, some with names, some with fire, some with the truth. From the open furnace, a flicker of green flame leaps, then vanishes. It's ready. All it needs is the offering. Part 19, bones aflame with life. The furnace hums louder now. Not the mechanical rumble of gas or heat, something deeper, older, like a voice behind the fire. And then, the skeleton moves. Not fully, but enough. Its right arm lifts, elbow bending slowly, deliberately, a motion that carries intent. The hand opens and points directly at Harry's empty place in the room. No one speaks. No one breathes. Then, thump. The sound comes from inside the ribcage. Again, thump. The hollow cavity, blackened from ancient cauterization, now pulses, slightly, like the echo of a forgotten heart returning by will alone. Hart murmurs. It's using guilt as a heartbeat. Samir stares in horror. That's not how physics works. Hart replies without turning. This isn't physics. It's justice. Around the gurney, the air shifts. Fine particles rise from the floor. Ash, soot, remnants of old cremations. They swirl upward, first in lazy spirals, then faster, tighter, drawn toward the bones like filings to a magnet. Morgan shields her eyes as the ash cyclone builds, whipping across the hall, forming a loose shroud around the skeleton. Inside it, the skull jerks once, then again. The jaw drops open and slams shut in a click that echoes like a gavel. The ribs widen, crack. The sternum flexes outward, a gesture of hunger, of readiness. The flame in Hart's lantern greens, just for a breath, then snaps back to orange. The ritual's reaching climax, she says. Harry better run, Samir mutters. And then, the furnace doors fly open. Not slowly, not creaking. Slam. Both metal panels slap against the stone walls with explosive force. The green fire inside doesn't flicker, it glares. It sees. The flames reach out slightly, licking the floor. Alive, wanting. And the bones begin to vibrate. Not from wind, not from motion, from will. The spine arches. The feet rise just off the tray. And still the ribs spread wider, demanding offering. Begging for balance. Morgan steps back. It's calling for the debt. Hart holds the pouch aloft. The charcoal Morgan took, now tainted with blood. I have the fragment, she says. We just need the record. Footsteps echo down the hall. Harry returns. He's panting, sweat slicked. In his arms, a battered black notebook, its leather cover nearly worn through. He throws it down at Hart's feet. There, everything I ever took. Everything I moved. Every sin with a date stamp. She kneels. Flips to the final page. Item number 1911. Wax heart. Sold. No registry. Reason cash. Regret logged. Hart nods once. It's enough. She stands. Morgan grabs a length of surgical tubing from a wall cabinet, ties it around the pouch, the notebook, and a strip of gauze still stained with her blood. They become one offering. The ledger. The fragment. The wound. Samir lights a taper with his lantern. No one speaks. They all know. This is their one chance. Morgan steps forward. The skeleton's ribs open wider in approval. Its arm lowers. It waits. Part 20, the only solution. The fire inside the furnace no longer flickers. It writhes. Alive, hungry, commanding. Green light dances along the stone walls, reflecting off the skeleton's bones as if tracing veins that don't exist. The ribs remain splayed open, as if expecting something to crawl back inside. Heart speaks first. Calm. Controlled. Bring the offering. Morgan nods. She gathers the bound bundle, the ledger, the pouch of blood-smeared charcoal, and the final shred of gauze marked with her cut. A crude assembly of guilt, evidence, and flesh. Harry hesitates, then steps forward and places his hand on the bundle, too. My ledger, he says. Hart locks eyes with him. Your debt. He nods. Together, they lift it toward the flames. But the heat surges, unnatural and immediate. Not warmth, but pressure. Like an ancient scream held inside a sealed mouth for too long. The furnace roars, and Morgan flinches back. Samir shouts, "It's destabilizing. If we don't feed it now, it'll break containment." No, Morgan growls. She steps forward again, one hand gripping the bundle. The other, she draws a scalpel. Without hesitation, she slices her own palm, again over the bundle. Blood drips down onto the gauze, hissing as it lands. Hart watches solemnly. Seal it with offering. Close the ring. Morgan staggers under the heat. Her coat catches an ember. Harry slaps it out. Together, they heave the offering into the furnace. The flames explode upward, not outward. A vertical scream of emerald and ash. The door of the furnace slams shut on its own, sealing the offering inside. And from behind them, the skeleton moves. The spine bows backward. Its jaw drops open. One final heartbeat echoes from inside its hollow chest. Then, the ribs collapse inward, bones cracking like wood in flame. The body falls backward on the gurney, lifeless and still, but not shattered, burned from within. Samir gasps. Was that it? Did it work? The furnace glows dull now, dying. Hart watches the flame dim and nods. The offering was accepted. Morgan leans on the table, breathing hard. Harry doesn't move. He just stares at the bones like they might rise again. But they don't. The green light fades, replaced by silence. A stillness so absolute it buzzes in the ears. Hart whispers the final line of the curse aloud. What was torn apart will never rise again if it dies as one. Morgan closes her bleeding hand into a fist and lets out the breath she's been holding since 007. Part 21. Ashes at 107. The furnace groans once, long and low, like a dying bellows exhaling its final breath. Then, silence. No flame, no hum, no whisper. The green light has vanished, leaving only the soft, flickering orange of their lanterns. Even that feels too loud now, like fire doesn't belong here anymore. Morgan stares at the gurney. The bones are no longer arranged, no longer posed. They've fallen where they lay, a scatter of white now dusted with fine gray ash. The ribcage is collapsed. The skull lies on its side, jaw dislodged. One femur dangles from the tray edge like a broken metronome. There's no heartbeat, no breath, nothing, just... Samir's tablet buzzes faintly, a system sync. The screen blinks. Then a notification slides across. Warning time restored, 107. Generators stable. Power grid reconnected. He blinks. The clocks, they reset. Morgan looks up. So does Hart. They check their watches. Each ticks in perfect time. 1:07 a.m. Harry leans against the wall, knees shaky. I didn't think it'd stop, he says quietly. I thought I'd live with it forever. Morgan doesn't answer. She walks to the gurney. Gently, without ceremony, she pulls her evidence pouch from the floor, now singed at the edges. Only ash remains inside. Hart joins her. She surveys the room. Soot-stained stone, warm air dissipating, ritual circle now fully broken. No glowing glyphs, no movement. Just aftermath. Do you feel it? She asks softly. Morgan raises an eyebrow. Hart smiles faintly. The stillness. It's not peace. It's weight. Samir says nothing. His eyes are fixed on the furnace. The door is still closed. But he swears, just for a moment, he sees a faint red handprint glowing on the inside. Then gone. He doesn't mention it. Hart pulls out her field journal and scribbles a final line beneath her notes. Debt sealed. Convergence failed. Vessel dismantled. Time repaired. Morgan looks around once more. I think, she says, we might just survive the audit. A small, grim smile from Samir. Harry doesn't speak. They gather their things. And they begin the ascent. Up the concrete stairwell. Past the smeared runes now fading. Past the cracked tile and smothered whispers. Toward a world that will never believe them. But they'll remember. Part 22, Echoes and Epilogue. The storm has passed. Clouds still linger above the cliffside hospital. But the wind has gentled into sighs, and the rain is now little more than a persistent mist. Dawn has not arrived, yet the dark no longer feels sovereign. Morgan, Hart, Samir, and Harry walk back through the main corridor. Their footsteps are quieter now, the tension no longer raw, just brittle. At the lab, Autopsy 3 stands open. The lights flicker overhead. The broken glass remains, but the sigil on the floor is gone. Completely. Not smeared. Not faded. Gone. Even the floor tile beneath it looks slightly newer, less worn. As if the circle had never existed at all. They move to the security wing. Harry deposits his ledger, what's left of it, into a steel lockbox, then tapes a sealed report to the inside of the case. No one speaks of it again. Down the hall, in the small hospital museum, something else has changed. Hart notices first. She drifts toward the glass case that once held a collection of turn-of-the-century mortuary dolls. Wax models dressed in mourning garb. Some had no eyes. One had a painted tear. Now, one of them has changed. The tallest doll in the center, dressed in black satin with a lace veil, displays a hairline crack across its left cheek. At first it seems superficial. But then, a bead of red forms along the fracture. Thick, slow, trickles downward. Not paint, not wax, blood. Hart freezes. She reaches for her notebook. Morgan steps beside her. Something wrong. Hart doesn't answer immediately. Her pen moves, slowly. Finally, she speaks. Debt doesn't disappear, she murmurs. It migrates. Samir watches from a few feet back, eyes wide. You're saying, it's in that now? Hart closes her notebook with a snap. No, she says. It's watching from there. Morgan says nothing. Her eyes scan the hallway clock. 1:17. Safe. But her hand still aches. The cut on her palm hasn't stopped throbbing. Behind the glass, the wax doll's painted smile seems wider now. Only slightly. Maybe. Or maybe the shadows are just playing tricks again. In places where death was once divided, pieces always search for the rest. Some debts are paid. Others are inherited. And some just walk, waiting. So check your clocks, dear listener. The next time you see 00:07, look around. You may not be alone.